Okay, we're recording. Hi everyone, my name's Imogen and I'm from Course Report. We are a resource for researching which coding bootcamp is right for you. We have a directory of different coding schools, tons of reviews, a blog, and interviews with founders, instructors, and students, all to help you work out which bootcamp you want to go to. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with Kathy, who is a student studying remotely with the Software Guild's online program. Kathy is going to answer our questions about the Software Guild's platform and even share her screen so we can get an insight to the learning experience at Software Guild. So Kathy, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So maybe you could start off by telling us about your kind of pre-Software Guild story and your kind of background and career before you decided you wanted to learn to code.
Well, I've been testing software for the last 15 years, and as development has changed and become more agile, there's a need for automation. And what I'm seeing is that if you want to stay in the testing industry, if you can't code, you're not going to have a job. And so I started looking at different things that I could do. I already have a 4-year degree, so I didn't really want to go back to school for 4 years. Looked at a lot of different options and really wanted to try to find something online. And the Software Guild actually worked out really well for me because I am working full-time and I do school 20 hours a week. And it works nicely to be able to do it online. It just really met the needs that I had.
That's so awesome. And did you try at all to kind of teach yourself to learn to code at first, or were you always set on doing some kind of
I tried doing stuff on my own. I have done Pluralsight trainings, and I actually did another online, it was a webinar where you had exercises to do, and I was able to learn the basics of C# enough that I could do some automation. But learning that way, I think you don't always get here are the good standards that you want to use when you're doing coding, and here's how to think about it. It's harder to learn that when you're just looking at webinars. And so that was part of the reason I wanted to go back to school to gain that level of knowledge. And the company I work for does .NET Stack development, and so I was looking specifically for something like that.
That's awesome. And did you ever think about doing like an in-person bootcamp? I'm not sure if there are bootcamps like that where you're living.
There's not in the city that I live. The closest boot camp would be probably an hour to an hour and a half drive. And that was what I originally was looking at. And that was how I found Software Guild, because I was looking at them. And I would have to take a 3-month leave of absence from work, which I probably could do. But then I would be driving an hour and a half every day and back, or living down there. And the cost just for what I would get was way more than I was willing to spend.
Right. Whereabouts are you actually located?
I am located in the St. Cloud, Minnesota area, which is like right in the middle of the state. So we're about an hour to an hour. I would be going to Minneapolis if I were going to do a boot camp. And that to get to the location of the one that I was looking at would probably have taken at least an hour and a half to get there.
Right. That makes total sense. And did you consider any other online coding bootcamps, or was Software Guild one that you were kind of set on?
I looked at other things and I get emails all the time for, if you want to be a developer, come and learn from us. And I'm skeptical because, when you're looking at stuff online, it's like there's really no way of knowing, okay, they're really valid. Are they good? How do I know that I'm going to get something that's really worthwhile? And when I found out about Software Guild, I found that they were associated with Concordia College, which is here in Minneapolis, that Concordia actually will give credits to their students if they take the boot camp. And when I saw that, I thought, this is a program that obviously is a good program. And so then I started going through the application process, and their application process convinced me even more that it was a good program.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, that was going to be my next question, actually. Like, what was the application and interview process like for Software Guild?
Well, when I started, and I'm clarifying when I started because they're going to change it. When I started, I had to do a phone interview where they asked me questions to kind of figure out what I was trying to do. I had to actually take a test to see if I had the analytical abilities to code. And then I had to answer 4 questions in like an essay format. So it was pretty intense. And I just thought, if they're as serious about making sure that the students can do the work to get into the program, they're going to make sure that we can succeed. So that just really convinced me. And I know we just talked with them and they said going forward, what they're going to do is they give you pre-work. So we had a lot of pre-work, which was really helpful. And they're going to make the pre-work available to the public. And they're going to say, you have to complete all of this pre-work before you can start. And they will be doing an interview with people to make sure that they are actually ready to do the program. So it's really, I can tell that they really want people who can do it. They don't want somebody to say, sign up, pay them money, and then not be able to actually do the work.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. That's so cool that they have that, such a rigorous process.
Yeah.
Really great. And I was wondering if you could tell me about, so far while you've been studying through Software Guild, what's the kind of overall learning experience been like for you? Perhaps you can give me an example of a typical day when you're working on it.
Well, they had told us when we first started that they expected us to put in that it would probably be 20 hours a week. And so I actually work to do 20 hours a week as a minimum. And so for me, because I've had enough background experience, I'm able to get the work done in about 20 to 23 hours a week. So I spend probably 3 hours a night during the week and then the rest of the time on the weekends to get the work done. And there's reading that we do. They've given us materials that we need to read. They have webinars that they have put together, and then they have coding exercises that we have to complete. And it was really interesting because when I applied for the school, they sent me several links with things that they're, oh, make sure you try to get through these. You don't have to, but it would be very helpful. So I did that. And then we had another 6 weeks of like, they called pre-work. That was just, I would tell my colleagues, well, what they're doing is really helping us feel like we have the ability to do this, but eventually they're going to push us over the cliff. And that happened from the perspective that all of a sudden we had a lot to learn, we had a lot to do, and sometimes it feels really intimidating. But what I really like about it is that the experience I'm having is exactly the same experience I would have when I'm doing development work. There were times I would throw my arms up and be so frustrated because I couldn't figure something out, and I'd spent 2 days on it, and I'd go to work and one of the developers would throw his arms up behind me and go, oh, I've been working on this for 2 whole days. So it was really encouraging because I could see that they really are doing a really good job of helping us see what it's like to be in development. And if you don't like it, then you don't want to do it. You don't want to do development at all, because it really is an example of how development is.
Okay. And with your background doing testing, did you feel that you already you knew what you were getting into before you started?
Sort of. I think that one of the things that I didn't expect is the level of, they're saying you have to love living like in ambiguity. And I told some of my friends that and they laughed at me because I don't like living in ambiguity. I'm learning to appreciate it, because when you're doing development work, things change so much and you're not going to know everything. You have to learn how to go find things. And so it can be really ambiguous. And I didn't expect that as much. I am definitely learning to appreciate it and understand why it is that way. And I'm learning how to develop really good skills that help me to weed through all the ambiguity to get to the answers.
Right, that's awesome. And I was wondering, throughout the program, how often do you interact with mentors or instructors?
I now am meeting with a teacher's assistant twice a week for half an hour, and they are also available almost 24/7. It seems they have us in a HipChat is a room that we use, and so whenever I work, I sign into HipChat, and there's students on there, and there's usually always an instructor or a teacher's assistant available. So if you have questions or you get stuck on something, you can ask questions in the chat, and they usually will try to help you. So I have 2 times a week that we have scheduled appointments, and then I can interact anytime on HipChat with them.
Oh, cool. And so do you have one mentor who you interact with more than others, or do you kind of just talk to whoever's available?
When we're on HipChat, we can talk to whoever's available. And then my weekly meetings, I'm meeting with a specific teacher's assistant. And that's mostly because his hours were the ones that were best suited to my schedule.
Right. Okay. And I was wondering if you interact with other students at all, and if so, how much?
We do on HipChat. It's been sporadic. A lot of it is because we have students, like my class, I know there's one student from Florida and one from Seattle, and so we're all over. And a lot of it just depends on when you're online. And so a lot of times when I'm online in the evenings, there's maybe 3 or 4 other people on. And but what's interesting is when I look at the chats, you can tell that during the day, it's always the same people. So you interact with who is available when you're on. And then we do have classes twice a week where we can ask questions, and then the teachers and the teachers' assistants go through the questions that we have to help us understand things.
Okay, so in those classes, are you all online at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. And do you know if you're going to be doing any kind of group projects or pair work with any of your other classmates?
They had said that would happen, and I think we're just not far enough along in the program to know exactly when that's going to occur. But I know that was one of the things that when we started the course, they said that would probably be something that we would do.
Cool, that's awesome. And I was wondering, like, how far through the program you are so far and when you expect to graduate?
Well, I'm 9 weeks through, and I'm expecting to be done in December. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get through in that time period. And it is pretty intense, but it's going well for me. And so I would like to stay with this level of intensity to try to get it done.
Cool. Is it kind of self-paced? Like, can you get through the material as fast or slow as you want?
Sort of. How they have it set up is that we have 3-week periods where we're covering a specific topic, and we have work that we have to get done in that time period, and they have a deadline that we have to get the work done in. And then if we get all the work done before that time period, they have additional work that they'll give us. And they have asked that we don't go on to the next level. They'd rather us stay at the same level that we're at. The one thing that's interesting is I'm one of the first people that have done this online program with them. So they're in a state of flux all the time. They're always looking at, oh, that doesn't seem like it's working, so we're going to change it and do this. And so that's one of the things I really like about it as well, is that they pay attention, and they really want to make it be a program that's going to be successful for you. And they've made it really clear that as long as we are doing the work and we're doing everything we can, they will make sure that we finish the program, even if we end up going a little longer than what they had originally intended. And so that's nice. But so they've really right now have asked that, I think going forward, they're going to switch it so that they'll allow it to be a little bit more self-paced.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Oh, that sounds like a really good system they've got right now.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, would you like to share your screen with me now?
Sure. Okay, so this is the program that we use. It's called ACOTAR. And so when you log in, it comes up with this dashboard, and it shows you who the instructors and the teacher's assistants are that you can access. So I'm going to just go to the class. And when you come into the class, you see down the side, there's the navigation on the left hand here. And so you can see the different sections that you're in and the topics that are covered. And so like right now, we're in section 5. And so I'll just go there. And you have a section here where you have exercises that you can go into. And it's like here I can see there's exercises that I can download and reading that I need to do. And when I've done that, I can mark it as complete, which is nice because then I can kind of keep track in the UI where I'm at. And then we do weekly, we do 2 weekly set classroom sessions, and then those classroom sessions are posted in this location here. So I can click in here and I can see them again. So if I want to go back and look at something that I looked at before, it's accessible, which is very nice. And then you'll see one of the things that they added was this section task list, which I like. So when I go in here, what it does is it'll show you for the section all the lessons that you have, and then like the readings that you have. So like if I click on this, it'll open up the PDF so I can read it online, or I can print it out if I want. And I'm old school, so I still print. But then it'll show me the videos that are available. And then if I need to take a quiz, then that's available. And what I like about this is that when I start my section, I know all the work that is there that I need to get done. So then I track that and I try to figure out, well, how much work do I need to get done each day so that I can get it done in the time period that they have allowed. And so if I go back to the list, you can see they have like the date that it's due here, so that you know, okay, I have to have everything for this section done by this time period. And you can see my check marks are green, that I've gotten that completed, so I can keep track there, which I really like.
That's so cool. And so, so which section are you up to right now?
We're in section 5.
Okay,
right
cool.
now.
And maybe you could just show, is it possible for you to show me, actually go into one of those little lessons and show me what it looks like?
Sure. So like if I go into, well, here's like so like here what will happen is you'll have the videos. So they give you the reading, and I kind of showed you that. And so then here's like a video that they have. They can just hit play and show you. So some of the videos are code along things. Some of them are like this, where they're doing an interview.
I'm just looking for a student record. Oh, there it is. Awesome. Did you find Sally Smith's record for me?
Oh, that's cool. Is it like a little role play thing?
Yeah. So like this one is like a role play one where they kind of go through and they kind of do interviews. Every once in a while it's like an interview. So I'll stop this one. And then others are where they're actually, so like here they're doing, let's look at this one and see. So here then they do the coding, and you can code along with it.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yep. So it's actually quite nice because they have they have a lot of different ones. And then the other things that they'll do, like we have these quizzes that you can go into, and let's see if I can find a quiz. So I've already taken this one, but when you go into the quiz, they'll ask you questions. Like I've already done it, so this is like in the review mode, but they'll ask you questions like, what's the proper way to create an anonymous type in the code? And then you select, and then you submit it and go on to the next thing. And they keep track of the score. So like you get done and they can tell you, well, this was your score for this quiz. And you can actually go back and review your questions. So that's nice as well.
That's really cool. I like that. And you were mentioning before that you do have like scheduled classes where everyone joins in. Are those video lectures as well delivered through this platform?
They're actually it's kind of like what we're doing. It's they send us an email, and then there's a link, and it's a live training. So then this instructor is running the program, and we can ask questions either through HipChat, or we can ask questions directly in the classroom, and then we can see, and then they record it so that we can see it later. And then they put the recordings here in the Akatar program.
Oh, that's really cool. And then you said that you communicate through HipChat.
Yes.
Are you able to show me what that looks like?
Sure. Let me just get that open here. So here's HipChat. So you can see when you look at this now, like all these people in the green are online, and then you can see the chats, and it's nice because you can search through all the history. And they have a lot of different groups that are set up. And you, like, if we wanted to, we could set up groups with other students so that we could talk to each other directly. And that was one of the other things I really liked about this program. It's called the Software Guild, and they look at it as an apprenticeship. And they've had commented, once a guildie, always a guildie. And so we'll have access to this forever. And so we can communicate to people and ask questions even once we're done with school. And they'll give us access to more groups once we're done. So I thought that was really nice, because when you're doing development, it's always helpful to be able to communicate with people online and know how to ask questions and get good responses. So that's one of the things that's nice.
That's really cool. That's so cool. And when you're working on projects or assignments, do you work on them through the platform you were showing me before, or do you do those on a different piece of software?
We're actually using Visual Studio to do our coding work. And then once we have our coding work completed, we're using Git Bash and to upload our stuff. And we're using Bitbucket. And then we use Jira to track issues. And then we use Crucible to submit code reviews.
Okay. Cool. And I was wondering if, how different you found using Software Guild's platform from kind of free online resources that you might have used beforehand.
Well, actually, Crucible, Jira, and Bitbucket are all free resources.
Oh, cool.
And so I think the way those work is that they can be free resources that you can use, or your company might use them, and then they would have, own a particular location where their stuff is protected. I think Jira is one of the items we use. I mentioned it to somebody at work, and they said, "Oh, I've used Jira, and he used it at another company." And I think that's one of the things, again, that I like about what the Software Guild is doing is, we have to have a Jira issue for tracking our work. We have to use that issue number when we check in our code. And then when we request a code review using Crucible, and that process is the same process that you use when you're actually in a development area. Our company does the same thing. We just use Visual Studio and Team Foundation Server to do that work. And so it's really nice. They're teaching us the process that we would be experiencing once we get out into the real world.
That's so awesome. That's very cool. And I was wondering if you've had a favorite project or assignment you've worked on that you might be able to show us.
A favorite? Well, I think that the one, I guess, I don't know if I'd say it's a favorite. It was a hard.
Okay.
But what they had us do, and this was another thing, the first set of assignments that they had us do, they had us create the logic for 100 methods. And they had written unit tests for each of these methods. And then our way of knowing that it was working is to run the unit test so that they would pass. And that was to teach us just kind of the basic understanding of C#. So the next work that we had to do is they had created a battleship program where they created the business logic behind the UI and had that all completed with unit tests. And then we had to create the UI portion to make the game work. And it was interesting because when they did that, I was like, well, that's totally typical. Going through and learning development, you're never going to go into the world and start from scratch. You're going to be going into someone else's code. And so what they were doing was teaching us how to learn how existing code works and then how to work with it. And so I will open up that project and I can show you. So again, even this version of Visual Studio is a free version.
Cool.
And so what they had done is they had created all the business logic layer. And it was working, and they had provided unit tests for us that we could run so that we could debug through it to figure out how did the business logic layer work. And then we had to create the UI portion of it.
Okay.
And one of the requirements that they had for us was that when we created it, they wanted us to have like a game management and then displays, and have the logic that was for the display where you're asking for input be separate from the game playing, actually the game management. And so it was teaching us the basic idea of model view controllers. And so everything that we do, when I'm looking at it, I can see how they're starting out small, but it's building the process and the thinking, which I like. And so with this one, we had to create that. And we were learning, there's a lot to learn about C#. Like, you know, you have to learn how, okay, if I have this method and it returns something, well, I have to have, you know, a field that it catches it. So just all the concepts of C# are really well learned through the way that they have things set up. And I really appreciated that, because a lot of times I'm like, well, don't I have to have something here? And they're like, yep. And so it's really nice. And I can show you the working project, but I don't know if people actually want to see the Battleship game.
Maybe you can just, if you have a link to the working project, you could send that through and we could link to it in the article.
I actually don't have any way for you to access that.
That's okay. That's all right. I mean, is it easy to show us the working one quickly?
Sure.
Okay, that would be great.
So it just starts out asking if you want to play.
Cool.
Oops. Okay, let me try that again. Then out here, I'm going to put my ships on the board for the player one.
Okay. Cool. Oh, that's really cool.
Top of an existing ship. So I had us to test that, to say, you know, make sure you're not going over the top of an existing ship. Make sure that it's actually on the board. So if I say, okay, I'll try that again, and then go and say, if I do, let's say, I go up. So it tells me, oh wait, you went off the board.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, it just kind of goes through the whole process, and that was one of the things that was really interesting. When we were working with this, we had to learn how to loop through arrays. We had to learn how to demonstrate it, and they actually had us create a board where we could show hit and misses.
Cool.
So if I can get all my pieces on the board.
So how long did you have to do this project?
Well, we had 3 weeks to do this project, to get it initially submitted for code review, and then another 3 weeks to have it completely done and considered meeting their expectations.
Cool, that's awesome. That's pretty fast. That's very cool. Well done.
Yeah, it's a lot to get done in the period of time that they've given us, but it is doable. It's a lot of work.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for showing us all of that. It's really cool to be able to get an insight to what your learning experience is like. Very cool. I still got a couple more questions for you, but maybe we can stop the screen share now and just have a bit more of a chat. Awesome. So I was wondering what's been your biggest challenge so far at Software Guild?
I think the biggest challenge is when you feel overwhelmed, not letting the overwhelmed feeling stop you from doing stuff. And that was one of the things that they had told us, is that, you know, we will be our own worst enemies. we're going to feel overwhelmed. And if we let that stop us, then, we're not going to make it. And that really encouraged me to just, when I start feeling overwhelmed, I just try to start coding something. And then that helps because I can figure things out then as I'm going and go, oh, well, that didn't work, and try to do other things. And I think the other challenge for me is because I work full time, it's hard. I have to be really dedicated to making sure I'm putting in the time that I need to get the work done. And so I saved all of my PTO for the year so that I could get this done. And so that's what I use my PTO for, is if I need extra time, I take time off of work and then I work on my school. So I think that those would be the biggest challenges. Is sometimes it feels really overwhelming when you're learning all this new stuff and then making sure that I'm putting in the effort to get the work done.
Right. Yeah, that does sound tricky, but it sounds like you're managing well. So well done. And I was wondering what your plans are after you graduate. Like, are you hoping to kind of stay in the same company, move into a different role, or look for something different?
It's a little of all of that. I am hoping that I'll be able to stay with the company that I'm with, because again, like, I live about 75 miles west of the Twin Cities, and I could commute there if I wanted to, but I really don't want to commute. And the company that I'm in does this type of development. So I would like to be able to stay with the team that I'm on and actually do development work and testing work. And I have talked with my managers, and they're pretty excited about it. They're thinking that it actually is a great idea. And a lot of agile teams, that's the way they are. That you have developers on the teams that do development work and testing. So that's what I'm kind of hoping will happen, is I'll be able to slide into a role like that, and actually just stay there and be able to do more of all of the types of work that are available. And if that doesn't work, then I will probably end up looking elsewhere.
Right. Oh, that sounds like a really great plan, though. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up to my last question now. I was wondering what advice you have for people who are considering taking an online coding bootcamp like Software Guild.
I think that the most important thing is that when you go into it, you know what you're committing to, and that you actually really do put the time in. It works better if you spread your learning over a period of time instead of trying to cram it all in 1 or 2 days. You just learn better that way if you spread it out. And I think if you have, like, if they give you work to do ahead of time, make sure you do that and get it done, because it'll just help you. And try to make connections with people that, hopefully within your program, where you can ask questions and get things done. But I think the biggest thing is really just being dedicated to getting the work done, because you're online, you're the only one there. So you really have to push yourself.
Awesome. That's so cool. All right. Well, yeah, thank you so much for chatting to us about this. This has been so interesting, and I think it's going to give people a really good insight to what it's like to learn with Software Guild. And also congratulations on working so hard, and it sounds like you're doing really well so far. So well done.
Well, I'm enjoying it. It's funny. I'll talk with people and I'll say, oh, can you tell I love it? And they just laugh at me. Yes, love it. So it's been I really, really like the program. And it is hard work, but it's worth it.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, thank you so much, and good luck with the rest of it. Hope you can graduate on time in December and move into the kind of role you're looking for.
All right. Thanks, Imogen.
Cool. Thank you.